Hi, Jeffrey. Thank you so much for coming to the Global IP Exchange in Europe here in Berlin. And thank you so much for sharing your insights. So my first question would be, if you were to sum up your IP strategy in one sentence, what would it be?
In the area of data security and integrity, we want to have protection for the future and not the present. And what I mean by that is everybody tries to get protection for what they're doing now. But that may be useless by the time they actually get it. So what we're more interested in is where will things be 5 or 10 years from now than what have we done today. So I'd say our focus is on the future more than the present.
Where do you see blockchain-based technology going in the next 6 to 12 months? And what unique challenges does it pose for heads of IP?
6 to 12 months in the world of blockchain technology seems to be a very long time in one way and not so long in the others. Right now, I think the world is suffering, at least in the blockchain world, is suffering from what I would call Bitcoin blindness. When you ask most people about blockchains, they immediately give you a definition that comes from the world of Bitcoins. So in the next 6 to 12 months, I would expect people to still be doing that. More financial services, IP issues, more things relating to money and cryptocurrencies. But eventually, even they are going to run into the limits of that technology. Bitcoin-type distributed blockchains or ledgers have a lot of inherent weaknesses. One is they do not scale very well. So it's fine to have 1,000 Bitcoin miners, but it'd be very difficult for that system to work if you have 1 million of them. They're very inefficient. If you have to come to consensus amongst thousands of different parties every time you want to enter a block, it just takes time. It's very inefficient. So I think the development in the next 6 to 12 months will be a continuation of this Bitcoin blindness, but eventually they're going to hit the limits of that technology and realize they're going to have to do something else.
What can IP departments from technology companies do to better promote their technological innovation?
You put 2 words in the question. One is commerce and the other is consumers. At the end of the day, the goal of all IP is money. For a company or the IP owner to make more money off of it than it costs to get. So for all of the nice theory, people do it to make more money. So that's the commerce part. But then you get to the consumer part. That may not necessarily be the best thing for the consumers. Hopefully what's good for the consumers will then make more money for the companies. But you're asking what can IP departments do to promote that? You cannot promote something that you're not aware of. I'd say many IP departments, or most of them, especially in big companies, think of IP in terms of engineers sitting at computer screens or machines or test tubes, and that IP comes out of R&D departments. If you want to know how to promote things for consumers, go ask them. So there's a lot of valuable IP that comes out of even the sales team. Now, they may not have technical solutions, but the salespeople, the ones actually talking to the customers, will tell the R&D people, this is what people want. So instead of getting IP protection for what you think they should have, just go ask them. So I would encourage heads of IP to even consult with people outside the traditional areas. Get away from the engineers for a while. Go talk to the sales guy who's out with the customers. Like, what are they asking for? That's how I would try to promote it. Just ask people.
Which single technological trend will have the greatest impact on your patent strategy going forward, and how are you preparing for the transformation?
It gets back to the question you asked earlier. Eventually, the hundreds and soon thousands of patent applications involving blockchain technology, those entities are going to realize that the Bitcoin-type distributed ledger isn't very efficient in most useful applications. So I'd say the trend is going to be that more companies realize what we already knew 10 years ago and will start to get more into our area. So that's what we're worrying about and trying to protect against. We believe that eventually even these big players will have to come to a solution like we've already had, and now we've got to be prepared for a lot more powerful companies to come in and compete with us.
At the Global IP Exchange, you are speaking on the topic of blockchain technology for new generations. Can you share some tips with our network?
So there are two types of tips. You could say there's tips involving uses of blockchains, or then there's the more IP-related aspect of what tips. So when it comes to the IP-related aspect of blockchain technology, because it's software that involves what many view as a pure algorithm, especially in the American world where these battles are going to be fought. So the IP tips, I would say, is worry about the Alice decision, the Supreme Court decision there in America, and the following cases. Make sure you don't run into that problem because you have pure software. I would say make sure to avoid the problem of divided infringement. So if you're trying to patent some blockchain where you have entities that might be spread around the world, well, no one entity may infringe. If you write a patent in such a way that no one entity can infringe it, it may become worthless if you have some kind of a distributed ledger. There are ways around that, so just be aware of that. And the other tip would be to be aware of the problem of territoriality. If you're getting into this world, again, the players may be spread around the world. You may have great patent protection in a place where your infringer doesn't live or has no servers. So this is, especially this type of technology that can get into the cloud computing world, can be spread around so much that if you're going to try to protect it, make sure to keep this issue of territoriality in mind. So those would be those three. So you'd have the software patenting, the issue of territoriality, and the issue of divided infringement.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey, for joining us here at the Global IP Exchange Europe, and thank you so much for sharing your insights. Thank you.